Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite art exhibits that I've ever been to. The art exhibit is called Robo Lights. Robo Lights actually doesn't exist anymore, so I was very lucky to be able to see it before it was shut down. But let me tell you a little bit more. Robo Lights was started by a man when he was 12 years old. He's grown up now, but when he was a kid, when he was around 12 years old, he started building sculptures in his backyard. The sculptures were made out of all sorts of things: old cell phones, water bottles, paint cans, things made of metal, things made of wood, things made of plastic, microwaves, toothbrushes, anything you can think of, the man made sculptures and statues out of. The man would construct the sculptures, and at the end, he would spray paint them. He would use paint in a can, and he would spray paint his sculptures bright colors. Some of the first sculptures or statues that the man made were made in the shape of a robot. They were robot statues. And so, as the man began to grow up, I keep saying man, but really he was a boy. As the boy grew, he continued to work on the project. I think he worked on the project almost every day from what I could tell. The boy worked on the project every day and kept creating more and more sculptures. Eventually, his entire backyard was filled with robot sculptures. But he got bored of making robots and he started to make sculptures in the shapes of other things. He made sculptures in the shapes of animals, sculptures in the shapes of things like boats or trains. He used the sculptures to create alleyways. He used the sculptures to create these stunning works of visual art. And then he decided to add Christmas lights. He decided to wrap Christmas lights around the entire exhibit. Eventually, this art gallery, this collection of sculptures, was nicknamed Robo Lights because of the combination of the robot statues and the Christmas lights. And with time, people started to visit. People started to visit this crazy art exhibit. It primarily was open during the Christmas period. I visited Robo Lights in 2017. I visited Robo Lights one of the last years that it was open to the public. The exhibit, the art installations, were in Palm Springs, California. This is one of my favorite parts of Robo Lights. All of the neighbors were really annoyed at this guy. The neighbors thought that the art exhibit was an eyesore. They didn't like the sculptures and the art made out of trash because the sculptures were made out of trash. But the neighbors didn't like that. Palm Springs, California is an area where a lot of rich, fancy people live. In fact, the person that created this, the artist, was the son of a guy that was quite wealthy himself. They were pretty well off. And the reason that he could create so many different art pieces is because their backyard had a lot of space. In fact, there was a pool and still a lot of other room to walk around. Eventually, he filled up the entire backyard with his sculptures, and as people started to visit, the neighbors got even more annoyed. The neighbors thought that the art exhibit wasn't good for the public. They didn't like the way that it looked, and they thought that it was a danger to the people visiting it. This is mostly because the pieces of art themselves weren't always put together very scientifically, using methods of engineering. The guy was an artist, not an engineer, and the neighbors worried that some of the art pieces would fall on the visitors. Maybe they were right. Maybe not. I don't know. I felt pretty safe. Anyways, when my husband and I visited Robo Lights, I was in awe. I thought it was one of the coolest art exhibits that I'd ever seen. There is a lot to see when you visit Robo Lights, and you walk through the entire art exhibit on foot. There are interactive elements like a piano to play, and in general, it can just be a very overwhelming feeling to try and look at all of the art and all of the lights. I have a hard time explaining the feeling of what it's like to walk through Robo Lights, but if you're someone that likes colorful art and a sensory overload, you'll like Robo Lights. One funny thing is that we had to park way down the road, and that's because the neighbors around the house where Robo Lights is located got the city's permission to block off the parking close to the art exhibit. They were trying to discourage people from coming to visit the exhibit. But it clearly didn't work. Up until a certain point. I don't know exactly what happened, but when I went to look up a little bit of information about what Robo Lights is like now, I found that Robo Lights is closed. Honestly, I was kind of sad to learn this information. I really liked that place. I actually went 2 different times. Once in 2017, and then I think maybe 2018 before it closed, or maybe it was the previous year. I'm not sure, but I went twice and I loved it both times. So I was sad to hear that it was shut down. It was closed for good. I think that the tension with the neighbors and the city officials probably reached a tipping point. The neighbors, the artists, and the city officials probably reached a point where it was best to shut down the art exhibit. I think, according to the article that I read, some of the art pieces are still available to be viewed in museums. I don't think that the essence of Robo Lights could ever be captured in a museum. But maybe the next time that I'm in Palm Springs, California, I'll have to see if I can find the museums where these sculptures were placed. If you liked this video, there are more videos that I'm making about my favorite places and things that I've seen in the US. So Stick around to hear more and keep improving your English. I'm Courtney. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!